Okay, it said live. Perfect. Perfect.
I think we can go ahead, Stacey.
Yeah, we're good.
Good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started with our webinar for financial aid. We are excited that we have over 100 participants for this webinar. So we'd like to welcome you all to, first off, SMC, and secondly, to Welcome Week. My name is Tracy Hunter, and I am the Associate Dean of Financial Aid and Scholarships. And Stacy Neal, who will be co-presenting with me, is the Financial Aid Supervisor. So we have a lot to cover in a quick period of time. We want to get through the presentation because we have a lot to share with you, and we will be monitoring the discussion chat to address your questions. So we'd like you all to listen to the webinar and then to jot down your questions. We definitely will have time for questions. Also, this session is being recorded, so you have the option to go back and view this presentation at any time. So we'll go ahead and get started. What is financial aid's mission? Our mission is to provide access and affordability for students to earn their certificate, their AA or AS degree, or to get the students ready for transfer to a four-year institution. Our mission also is to help students to see that college is an expense that everybody can afford. So we're here to help you navigate the process. Finally, financial aid mission is to help reduce the overall price of college to make the expenses that you have to pay out of pocket more affordable. What is financial aid? Financial aid is any federal, state, or institutional resource that a student or a parent on behalf of the student can have to assist with paying for educational related expenses. The sources of financial aid that we work with are given from the federal government, the state government. We have scholarships through SMC or outside private organizations for outside scholarships. The types of financial aid that we grant at SMC include free money, which are grants and scholarships. So we always want to promote receiving as many grants and scholarships available to students. Work study, which is a student employment program, and we have opportunities on and off campus, and we'll go into detail on how to qualify for federal work study. And then if students are in need of loans, and these are loans that are available to resident and non-resident students. However, we do counsel our resident students to save their loan eligibility if they do plan on transferring to a four-year university. And our non-resident students, we do counsel them that loans are available to help pay the higher tuition costs. But as you can see, loans, of course, do have to be repaid. And we'll go through some of the qualifications for loans later on in the presentation. Federal grants. These are the grants that we award here at SMC. We give out the federal Pell grant, which is awarded to undergraduate students with financial need. The awards range anywhere from $400 to $6,345, and that's for the entire school year. You would get half of it in the fall and half of it in the spring. Students can receive the Pell Grant for no more than 6 years. The Federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant is another grant that we give out at SMC, and it's awarded to undergraduate students with financial need, and they usually have to also be Pell Grant eligible. Our awards, because we're such a low-cost institution, we normally give out SCOD awards at a cap of $200 for the year. The additional federal aid that we have is the work study program that I discussed earlier, and it is an employment program that provides jobs for students. As you can see, the federal pay rate is $15 an hour. I'm sorry, the federal work study pay rate is $15 an hour. Students would work with we have a federal work study coordinator that students would work with if they're interested in pursuing this option. For the federal loans, we offer two types of loans. It's the federal direct subsidized and the unsubsidized loans. And these loans are provided for undergraduate as well as graduate students. But for purposes of this discussion, we'll only focus on undergraduate. It's a low interest option given through the federal government, and the student must repay after they either leave school or graduate. We also provide federal direct plus loans for parents to take out on behalf of their student. So that is another option. We do have a loan coordinator within our office. If students are interested in that, we would put you in contact with our loan coordinator. The state aid that we offer is through the California Student Aid Commission. That's the state agency for California. And these awards are for resident students only. We provide the Pell grant, which is listed here. Now, the California Student Aid Commission does provide Cal Grant A, but those are only allotted to students attending a four-year university. The Cal Grant B and C option are for students who are attending a California community college or a vocational institution. So we do offer those two grants here at SMC. It is based on students achieving a certain grade point average and demonstrating financial need. And the deadline to complete the FAFSA is always March 2nd. March 2nd is our priority deadline, but the FAFSAs are always made available October 1st for the next academic year. So we always try to push students to apply for the FAFSA beginning October 1, but you definitely have to keep in mind the March 2nd priority deadline. The final grant that we give out through the state is the California College Promise Grant, which is the fee waiver. I know the session before us talked about the SMC Promise Grant, so this is different from that. This is a fee waiver available to students attending a California community college, and it waives the enrollment fees. You would still have to pay the mandatory SMC fees, but your enrollment fees would be waived. This is a very good website for you to go to. It's ICanAffordCollege.com. And with that, I will turn it over to Stacy.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I was entering questions in the chat. Thank you for sending those. I want to officially welcome everyone to Welcome Week and to our financial aid workshop. If you do have questions, please put them in the chat box or the discussion box, and we'll take them from there. We are now at one more slide. My Ms. Vanna, can we click to institution, also resources, I believe Tracy has talked about, and it's actually a really important resource. We want to encourage all students to apply. Look for outside scholarships. FastWeb is a really good resource. What it does, it allows you to create a profile about yourself, and it'll generate a list of scholarships you appear to be eligible for, which you should be applying. You write that one great essay about yourself, make 10 copies, and send it out to the world. Also, SMC, we do have SMC Foundation, which also awards over about 250 scholarships on an annual basis. You should see or receive more information on the process probably during fall around October 1. So I also want to encourage all students to apply for SMC funds. Now, getting into the nuts and bolts of financial aid and who is eligible to apply. We're going to go to the next slide. And to be eligible to apply, we have listed the primary 6 bullets. You must be a U.S. citizen or an eligible non-citizen with a valid Social Security number. You must have a high school diploma or a GED certificate. You must enroll in an eligible degree or certificate program, something Tracy mentioned earlier. So SMC, our primary goals are an AA, students preparing for 4 years, so they might be pursuing their general education, or we have students who are pursuing a certificate, which they're going to get and take and pursue a job. For our males and out there in cyber world, you must register for selective service if you're between the age of 18 to 25. Once you get here, it's important that you're maintaining your satisfactory academic progress, meaning at least a 2.0, and completing your classes at a 67% rate, if not better. Also, students may not be in default. I understand the majority of our community out there today are probably new students, but financial aid, because it covers new and returning and graduate, these eligibility requirements apply to everybody. So when we talk about not being in default, a lot of students say, well, I haven't even taken out a loan. We understand that, but just something to remember going forward. So once you've done that, you want to look at how to apply. How do you apply for financial aid? Pretty simple, believe it or not. You're going to start with the one primary form known as the free application for federal student aid. In financial aid lingo, we call that the FAFSA. It's a federal government form, which everyone basically who is applying for financial aid will fill out. We've listed the website, www.fafsa.gov. It's pretty simple in the sense that you fill out one form, but say you're thinking about multiple schools to attend, so you can list up to 10 schools on your initial FAFSA, and each school will get your information to determine your financial aid eligibility. Once you nail down which school you're going to work with, so we're in Welcome Week, we're talking about SMC. Once we've received your FAFSA, you're going to check your portal, make sure we've received it, and if there's additional documents you need to turn in. For our students who are what we call our dreamers, our AB 540 students, might not be eligible to fill out the FAFSA, but we do encourage them to fill out the California Dream application. They'll find that at the www.csac.ca.gov, and basically it mirrors the FAFSA. The difference is it's processed by the state of California. So we encourage all our undocumented and our AB 540 students to apply. You could be eligible for the California Promise grant that Tracy was talking about. You can also be eligible possibly for Cal Grant. So it's a very good resource. So once you've done whichever form that's designated for you, you also want to make sure you've submitted your GPA verification. For all our welcome students who are starting, probably when you were in high school, your GPA was submitted to the state, and you might have been notified about the Cal Grant. We do process Cal Grant. And for our new students who've already been awarded out there, you'll probably start seeing your Cal Grant award the week of September, I want to say the 7th. So look on your portal. Sometimes your application might be selected for verification, which means that the government has said, Financial Aid Office, we want you to verify the information that's been provided on this application. And in those cases, we'll ask a student and or parent to submit a copy of their tax transcript. For the 2021, we're looking for the 2018. And lastly, sometimes students might want to go straight to the California Promise Grant. There tends to be a separate application through your Coursera Connect. But what I want to encourage everyone in our audience, apply for the FAFSA or the DREAM application so you can be considered for all potential financial aid available to you. Now, how does this all work? We start out with, what does college cost? Every institution or school you might be looking at, builds a cost of attendance. So there's always a direct cost and there are indirect costs. When we're referring to direct costs, we're looking at tuition, and particularly at our four-year institutions, they might have housing, food plans. Those are direct costs that are related to an institution. In addition to direct, there's always indirect costs. You got to buy your books. You got to buy potentially a computer. You got to get to school. So there's a transportation cost. And plain and simple, there might be personal expenses. You might need to go do your Bath and Body Works, and get your sweet smelly stuff. All that is included in a cost of education. So what we do, we look at our direct and our indirect costs, and what we do is we build what does our estimated cost for a year for a student? And here we have a sample. So we kind of did a comparison. So we started with the SMC, we have a CSU, we have a UC, and we also have the private. So looking at the first line, we have a tuition. So we're estimating a student going 12 units in the fall and the spring would cost their tuition. Remember the enrollment per unit is $46. So we took it multiplied it by 12. And we're going to come up with about $650 per semester, the primary semesters. So it's $1,200. We looked at UCLA, UC Irvine, UC Riverside, whatever you see, their tuition costs for the 2021 school year is about $13,000. We looked at room and board. Even though we're a commuter campus, you're probably living at home, you might have your own apartment, whatever your circumstance may be, we assume there's still a cost. You might be paying for water, you're buying groceries, you got electricity. So there is still a cost associated with your room and board. Compared to, once again, the UC, the student might be living on campus, so they have a dorm room, but they're also required to get a meal plan. We have books and supplies. You find the cost pretty comparable, whether you're going to a community college, private, UC, or Cal State. Books cost. There's transportation, which is gassing up the car, putting air in the tires, Ubering, whatever the case might be. So there are all costs associated. And then last, personal expenses. As I said, even though you're in college, we assume you're going to incur different expenses. What we have here is a sample of a cost of attendance comparison chart. So at SMC for 1 year, we're saying the estimated cost is about $11,000. Compared to a UC, you're looking at about $33,000, $33,272. So we take this information and have finished. And what you've done, you have already completed the FAFSA or the DREAM application. And what that form actually does, it calculates what we call an expected family contribution. The expected family contribution is an estimation based upon the family income, the family household size, how many are going to college, different elements the federal government is looking at to determine what is your ability to pay toward college costs, whether you're the student, the parent, or a combination of both. So we're taking our cost of attendance, we're minusing out the expected family contribution, and that result equals student financial aid need or eligibility for financial aid. That's the number our financial aid offices are trying to meet to the best of our ability, based upon the different resources that were mentioned earlier in the presentation. So we have an example. So in this case, we have a demonstrated need. Once again, we have the SMC estimated cost of $11,976. Let's look at the UC. I think it was $33,000. The student did their FAFSA, their expected family contribution, came up to $1,500. That number would be the same whether they're going to SMC, CSU, a UC, or a private. And the difference between the two would be the demonstrated need. So if we focus on, again, our SMC, student has a need of about $10,000. At the UC, that same student has about $31,000. And so then the magic really starts, and we start trying to meet that demonstrated need. And here we have a sample of how we do that exactly. At SMC, if we recall, the student's need was $10,000. First thing off the bat that they received was the California Promise Grant, which we want to make sure to note that's only available at California community colleges. So it's a really great waiver and benefit. The student was eligible for a Pell Grant based upon their respective family of 4470. We were able to give an SCOG and also work study, which is really a great opportunity. Allow students to work while going to school, get a great paycheck, $15 an hour. So in this case, we were able to meet the student's need from the 10,000 all the way up to 7868. In the, why is it so small? In the UC, we did a similar breakdown. Student received the same Pell Grant, because remember that EFC is the same, that Pell Grant is going to be the same, no matter what type of school you go to. The UC was able to give 2,000 SCOG. This student also received a Cal Grant, which is important to know, because at the 4 years, and actually at the 2 years, the Cal Grant covers the tuition for students who are attending a UC or a CSU. So say you get a Cal Grant here at SMC, say you're going to use it for 2 years, you're going to do your first 60 units, and you're going to be ready to transfer. That Cal Grant will go up to cover the tuition at the UC and the Cal State. Unfortunately, it can't cover everything at the private, but it does increase a bit to allow to help pay toward tuition. Student also received work study, and so we were taking the demonstrated need of 22,000. We were able to meet the need of 21,000 at the UC. So this is basically the formula of how the financial aid process works. So just to summarize it again, step one, you're going to complete the FAFSA or the DREAM application, whichever is applicable. And the application season begins every calendar year of October 1 to March 2nd. I understand it's August. So if you haven't applied, but you're going to leave this presentation and apply, it's still not too late to apply for the 2021. So you'll be doing a free application or the DREAM application. Second, you're going to check your Coursera Connect. Our goal is to provide as much information as we can in terms of from the time you apply, did we get your FAFSA or your DREAM application? Do you need to submit additional information? If so, turn that in. We'll give you an assessment and we'll let you know what you're awarded for. For those who are out there who've already done all this, checking their portal, good news. Today we ran our first disbursement, which is the goal for everybody, step 3. If you're eligible for a financial aid, you want to get that disbursement, which means you want to start getting your payments for your financial aid. So we did the first one today in hopes of students will start receiving their first checks around the mid to end of the first week of school. So this is basically a summation of what the process is. Apply, follow up on your portal to disbursement. And I think that's it. Well, one other thing we want to plug as we're talking about the disbursement, we want to talk about the remote, talk all about that. What we did roll out this year, which has been a wonderful tool, is we're not in the office. Basically, we're remote. And so how do I get my documents? We have what we call Coursera eDoc. So when you go into your portal, if under the section where it says action or additional information needed, you're going to check there and you're going to upload potential documents. It might be a verification form. It might be proof of your high school. It might be your parents' tax transcript. You're going to do all of that by uploading it into Coursera eDocs. It'll go into a portal. Your file will then go for review with your specialist. So very good tool. Encourage everyone. If you have questions, email us, cue us, and we'll be there to assist. So that's the end of our formal presentation, but we are here for questions. So we could check the discussion. I was kind of off while I was talking, but I'll look and see if there are any specific questions maybe for the group. But before I do that, for those who are good to go, thank you for attending, listening to our workshop, And we look forward to seeing you one day at SMC, but definitely enjoying your fall semester.
Thank you, everybody.
Let's see. I'll read some out loud because it's easier to read and then reply. I got the question, what's work study? Tracy, you want to take what's work study?
Yes, work study is a student employment program that students can apply for here at SMC or any other college. We pay $15 an hour. Students can work up to, is it 20 hours a week, Stacey?
20
20
hours.
hours a week. It's an on-campus job, so there's many jobs that you can apply for. In our virtual environment, it's a little bit challenging, so we don't have as many work study opportunities as we would if we were on campus. Hopefully, if we're trending down, we can possibly see what the future will hold as far as us being back on site. But there are work study opportunities that you can work with our work study coordinator to see the jobs that are hiring still in a virtual environment. So we would just invite you to contact us and let us know if you are interested in work study.
Okay, perfect. And Vincent has a really good question. Can anyone explain the difference between the CCPD and the SMC Promise program? One thing I want to refer Vincent to, the workshop that was right before us actually covered that, but in a quick and dirty way. They're very similar. The difference is the CCPG is if you fill out a FAFSA or a California Dream application and you are deemed eligible to get the waiver, you're gold and you're good to go. SMC program, very similar, funded by SMC, but the difference is maybe you're not eligible for other based upon family income. But there's also the requirement you must enroll as a new student. You're coming right out of high school, enroll in 12 units and complete 12 units in order to get the benefit of the SMC Promise program. So in both cases, you would fill out the FAFSA or the Dream application, but a determination is made. But as I say, for a new student, you have to have that 12 unit. That is a number one requirement. So I hope that helps, but to get a lot more information and detail, definitely go back to the 10 o'clock session. It was recorded. It's really good. So hope that helps. So can you do work study remotely now?
Yes. In certain situations, like I said, to be very honest, we had more job opportunities because we were on campus. And like, for example, we normally have jobs in the financial aid office. We're not going to have the opportunities that we had previously. So it just all depends on the type of jobs that are available and the areas of the college that do still need students in a virtual environment. So we would work with you on identifying those areas that are hiring for work study.
Mm-hmm. I'm scrolling through because I'm really trying to highlight the ones that will benefit the group, but also know that we'll keep track of these. How do we receive our checks? Actually, that's a good question. They are mailed out, and I really, really want to impress upon people where we're getting the addresses from your admissions and in the main portal. So if there's a possibility, I know in this remote environment, there's a lot of movement, there's a lot happening. So as I indicated a little while ago, we started disbursement. So in about a day or two, when they actually print the check, they're gonna use the address that is in the main system through admission. So if you need to change your address, you would do it today so that when they print the check, because we do still do paper checks that go out in the mail, that address is really key because we find some checks are not reaching our students due to bad addresses. Just, with the mail system, it's a little crazy. So definitely know your address, get it in the system so that you can get your funds. On that line, someone said, will you receive a card in the mail? I assume you're talking about maybe the debit card. I know there's other schools We're not at the card system yet. Maybe in 2050, who knows? It's something we're trying to get to, but right now, to reiterate, look for your paper checks in the mail. Let's see. Anyone have the link to apply for work study? If you go through our website on our, I think under our quick links, you'll see student employment, and it'll take you to the listing of the jobs. Here's a good one, Trace. Does work study affect the amount of money you get from your Pell Grant?
So no, that is actually a really good question. And no, it does not. So Pell Grant is an entitlement award. So you would get actually awarded a Pell Grant first. That would be the first award that we would give. And then whatever is left over, we would give it to you in a work study grant or an SPLG grant, depending on when you applied and if we have funds available. If you qualified for a waiver, actually that will go on first, very first. The waiver would go on first, then the Pell Grant. But for purposes of this conversation, the answer is no. Getting work, you can get work study and Pell Grant simultaneously, and many of our students can do that. And it does not affect the amount that you would qualify for in the Pell Grant.
Correct. Actually, Catherine reiterated that the CCPD only pays for enrollment fees. You are correct. If you become opt into the SMC Promise program, because you're right out of high school and you completed the Fast for a Dream application, deemed eligible for the waiver, you are correct. The financial aid office awards you the CCPD, but you opted into the Santa Monica Promise. Yes, you are then eligible for the book voucher. There is a book voucher component to the SMC Promise for our entering out of high school first year 12 unit students. So you opted into Promise, you got the CCPG because you're eligible through financial aid. You can also get the book voucher. But if you're only eligible for the SMC Promise and the waiver, that only covers your classes and your mandatory fees. No, it gets a little crazy, but we're here to help. And like I said, I really want to refer you to the video. I think this is the primary ones. What a group. There's a lot of interesting comments, but I think we've hit complete all required documents in Coursera eDoc, but it still says requested. What can I do for this? Please help. I'm not sure if we mentioned it, but our email address is financialaid@smc.edu. And I also really want to encourage students to go to us through QList, which is available Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 12 to 3. What you do is you enter a virtual line and you'll get a call back from one of our staff. Right now it's crazy, so be patient with us, but definitely join. So once again, our email, but it's your email, financially@smc.edu, but Maya might be slick. She might want our actual. I am Neil_Stacy. I'll actually put it in the discussion box if you just want to reach out and say hi, or you want to follow up. So I'll put mine and Tracy's, okay? It'll go in the discussion box. Other than that, unless Tracy has any closing words.
There was one question I wanted to tap into. It says, Stacey, if you could tackle this, international students get financial aid for books.
Unfortunately, no. I would have to say no, unless they check directly with the International Education Office. Sometimes they might have vouchers available. I would start there. But through the financial aid process is pretty limited.
Yes, and so another question was, does financial aid apply for international students? And the answer is no. It is just for our U.S. residents or AB 540 Dreamer students. Okay, and I think we have captured the majority. I'm just scrolling through, making sure. Okay. Okay, well, we definitely thank you for joining us today. Feel free to reach out if we can answer any other specific questions regarding your specific financial aid eligibility. And we wish you all a great rest of your day. Enjoy Welcome Week. And again, welcome to SMC. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Okay. How do we